In today's mini quest, I will show you how to paint a Murloc. First, go to myminifactory.com and get those awesome Murloc models from Gloomy Kid. Then print those little guys and get some colors and a hairdryer, because we are going to get them painted fast. We start this mini quest with Murloc White and prime the whole model. And our first color will be Thousand Suns Blue, which we use to base coat the Murloc skin. It took me about 3 layers to get an even nice looking coat. We continue with Phoenician Purple and Thousand Suns Blue to paint the Murloc skin on his back in a different color using wet blending and get some more color variation. This is a step we didn't take in our last Murloc tutorial. This will need some more layers later, but as long as it's drying, we take Rocket Flash and paint the belly. Then, while the paint is still wet, we put some Thousand Suns Blue beside it and blend it together to get a smooth color transition. And while that is drying, we repeat the whole process on his back with Phoenician Purple and Thousand Suns Blue and again on the belly. Don't be afraid trying to wet blend. This is a great place to practice because we will wash everything later on and any kind of mistakes will be seen hardly. Like in our last tutorial, we use Palette Witch Flash for the patterns on his skin. 2 layers should be more than enough. And again, a great practice for brush control. Now let's drown this whole thing in Drakenhof Nightshade, which will darken everything heavily. Any big pools can be soaked into a clean brush again, so don't worry if that happens to you. After we speed up the drying process with the hairdryer, your mini should look like this. And if you would like to stop working on the skin, that's totally fine, and you can move on to the next step. Otherwise, we need to repaint the belly with Rocket Flash and both of the patterns with Palette Witch Flash. In the next step, we mix some Genestealer Purple into our Phoenician and paint some layers on the back, because our purple is hardly visible at the moment. We continue with a mix of Palette Witch Flash and Rocket Flash and put some layers on the raised areas on the belly. Now it's time to paint the blue Murloc skin. First, with pure Thousand Suns Blue, which we use to paint all the raised areas and muscles, I'll show you the whole process on his left arm. Then we mix some Lozon Blue into our Thousand Suns Blue and paint another layer on top while painting less of the surface. We continue to increase the amount of Lozon Blue and painting layer after layer until we are able to use Lozon Blue on its own, painting a fraction of the area. It's totally up to you how many layers you would like to paint. The more layers, the smoother the transition, but it will take more time. As an example, you could start layering with 20, 50, 80 and 100% Lozon Blue in your mix. And some last strokes of Genestealer Purple because I still wasn't satisfied. Next up, we use some Macrach Blue to paint some tiny little squares on both of his patterns, and after the first 2 layers I mixed some Lozon Blue and painted the upper half of the squares with this brighter blue again. We continue with Mood Green, paint both hands and feet and wet blend some Thousand Suns Blue into the green to get a smooth transition, like we did on the belly and on the back. This time the area is a bit smaller though. When you're finished, make sure to give everything a second layer of Mood Green. Livery Green will now be added into our Mood Green and we start layering the raised areas until we can use Livery Green for a final layer on its own. As an optional step, you can use Waywater Green or any other kind of green ink, speed or contrast paint to glaze over all the green areas. We move on to the fins and eyes with a base coat of Everland Sunset, my favorite yellow color because it covers really good and makes a nice base coat after using just 2 layers. Some additional dots on both sides that look like Spider-Man at the end of Infinity War. When everything has dried, we use Cassandra Yellow and apply a heavy wash on both eyes and every fin. And because that needs some time to dry too, I cleaned up the net using Dead White and continued to paint all of his teeth as well as some highlights on both of his eyes and patterns. Back to Everland Sunset again with some layers in the middle of his eye and on the front side of his fins. Now we take a brighter yellow, like Flash Kid's yellow, and mix it into our Everland Sunset. I try to paint some small strokes in his eyes and edge highlight all of his fins, while increasing the amount of Flash Kid's yellow in our mix. Some final layer with pure Flash Kid's yellow while I'm barely touching the model. The blue, yellow and green make up for some real nice contrast. If you want to add more details, use the Flash Kid's yellow for some additional Peter Parker dots. Abaddon Black is our next color, which we will use for his pupils and some recess shading around the eye. Concentrate. Just wanted to show you one of my finest brush strokes without fucking everything up. Painting with black over so many layers can be really stressful, so take your time and take a deep breath. Now grab some blood leather, blood angel's red contrast or any other kind of red speed, paint or ink and drop some in both eyes. Skeleton Horde is now applied on his teeth. And we continue using contrast paints and paint his net with a thick layer of snakebite leather. Try to avoid all painted areas at this stage because you don't want to ruin our paint job. Gunmetal or lead belcher is our next color, which we will use to paint the knife. Try to be as neat as possible because there are some hard to reach areas now. Some last dots of white on both of his eyes, one on the upper part and one smaller dot on the lower part. We finish the eyes with a technical color art coat, which will be applied all over and leaves a glossy coat. And while we are already using white, I edge highlighted the top parts of his fins too. Now wash the knife with some Nuln oil, let that dry and get some silver or Stormhorse silver to make some edge highlights, and I usually paint one side of the blade in silver too, just for the nice contrast. Keep in mind that this is an 1 hour paint job. I'm pretty sure you could paint many more details on the knife, but we're almost out of time and we have to hurry. The final step is a dry brush of the net with Bellow Brown first, and we add some pellet witch flesh for a second lighter dry brush. Now our mini is finished and I will shut up for a moment so you can enjoy some pictures. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, consider to subscribe for future tutorials, leave a like or share your opinion in the comments. See you in our next mini quest, bye!